biologist named Lyra Novak, who secretly studies forbidden alien biology on a remote research station, is arrested by Captain Darius Reeves of the Galactic Coalition. Rather than immediate imprisonment, she's offered a chance to help investigate a mysterious biological threat spreading through Coalition space that matches her research expertise. Part 2, Beyond the Veil. Working together despite their opposing views, Lyra and Darius discover the biological threat is actually a misunderstood alien species trying to communicate. Their unlikely partnership leads to a diplomatic breakthrough and forces the Coalition to reconsider its restrictive research policies. Now, here's part 1 of the story. Part 1, The Treaty Breaker. The airlock hissed open with a sound that sent Lyra Novak's heart plummeting. She frantically swept her research samples into the containment unit, fingers trembling as she activated the stealth protocols. Too late. By authority of the Galactic Coalition, you're under arrest for violation of the Xenobiological Research Restriction Treaty. Lyra froze, her spine stiffening as she slowly turned to face the intruder. He stood in the doorway of her laboratory, tall, broad-shouldered, with the unmistakable black and silver uniform of Coalition enforcement. The insignia on his chest marked him as a captain, not some ordinary enforcement drone. They'd sent their best to catch her. "This is a private research facility," she said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "You have no jurisdiction here." The captain stepped further into the lab, his boots clicking against the polished floor. His face remained impassive, but something in his dark eyes suggested he wasn't enjoying this assignment. Dr. Lyra Novak, formerly of the Coalition Science Academy, currently operating an unlicensed research facility in violation of Statute 27B of the treaty. "I'm Captain Darius Reeves, and I have every jurisdiction." He glanced at the half-hidden containment unit. "Especially when the facility in question houses Category 7 restricted organisms." Lyra's jaw tightened. "You don't understand what you're interrupting. This research could revolutionize medical treatment across 3 systems." "What I understand," Captain Reeves replied, "is that the treaty exists for a reason. The last time unrestricted xenobiological research was permitted, the Corvus plague nearly wiped out 2 colonies. That was 30 years ago," Lyra countered. "Our methods are more advanced now. The potential benefits outweigh. Save it for your hearing." He produced a pair of restraints, not the crude physical kind, but the more sophisticated neural inhibitors that would prevent her from accessing any technology. "I'm authorized to use force if necessary, but I'd prefer not to." Lyra eyed the restraints with disdain. 8 years of research, destroyed in an instant because of outdated regulations created by politicians who couldn't tell a mitochondrion from a microbial colony. She briefly considered rushing for the emergency airlock. Her station was small, but she knew its layout better than anyone. But the determined set of the captain's jaw told her she wouldn't make it far. With a resigned sigh, she extended her wrists. "You're making a mistake." As the neural inhibitors clicked into place, Lyra felt the familiar buzz of technology at her fingertips fade into nothingness. The sensation was disorienting, like suddenly losing a sense she'd taken for granted. "I'm just doing my job, Doctor," Reeves said, his voice softening slightly. "Now, I need to inspect and document your research before transport." He guided her to a chair near the main console, keeping a professional distance that somehow irritated her more than if he'd been rough. She watched as he moved through her laboratory with surprising knowledge, correctly identifying equipment that most enforcement officers wouldn't recognize. "You have scientific training," she observed. Captain Reeves paused, glancing her way. "Xenobiology and enforcement dual certification. Not everyone in the Coalition is scientifically illiterate." "Then you should understand the importance of this work," Lyra pressed, leaning forward. "Look at sample RX-42. The cellular regeneration rate is 10 times faster than anything in the medical database." To her surprise, Reeves actually stopped to examine the sample sheet indicated. His dark brows furrowed as he studied the readings. "This is derived from Proxima Centauri flora," he said, not as an accusation but with professional interest. How did you stabilize the decay rate? Previous attempts resulted in cellular breakdown within hours. Lyra blinked, thrown by his question. A synthetic protein matrix with adaptive coding. It creates a symbiotic relationship rather than trying to control the reaction. For a moment, scientific curiosity overshadowed their adversarial roles. Then Reeves seemed to remember himself, straightening his posture and returning to his documentation. Innovative, he admitted, but still illegal. Because some bureaucrats decided that anything we don't fully understand is too dangerous to study, Lyra muttered. Meanwhile, millions suffer from conditions that these organisms could treat. Reeves continued his inspection in silence, methodically recording each violation. Lyra watched him, noting the precision of his movements, the occasional flicker of interest when he encountered something particularly unique. Transport arrives in 30 minutes, he finally announced, closing his documentation device. You'll be taken to Arcturus station for processing. Lyra's stomach clenched. Arcturus was the Coalition's highest security detention center, reserved for the most dangerous offenders. That's excessive for a research violation. Not my decision. Reeves checked the neural inhibitors, his fingers briefly brushing against her wrist. Standard protocol for. The station alarm suddenly blared to life, red emergency lights pulsing throughout the lab. Reeves immediately tensed, hand moving to his weapon. What is that? He demanded. Proximity alert, Lyra answered, equally confused. But I'm not expecting any visitors. Reeves moved to the console, then remembered she was cut off from the system. Override code, Reeves, Darius, Captain, 77529 Alpha. The main screen flickered to life, revealing an unidentified vessel approaching the station at high speed. Unlike the sleek, metallic design of Coalition ships, this one was organic. Almost like it was grown rather than built. Coalition ship, identify yourself, Reeves commanded. No response came through the communication channel, but the vessel continued its approach. It's not Coalition, Lyra said, standing despite her restraints. I've never seen anything like it. The ship drew closer, revealing a surface that seemed to pulse and shift. It wasn't metal or any known synthetic material, it appeared to be alive. Biological vessel, Reeves muttered, already inputting commands. Activating defensive protocols. Wait, Lyra interjected, stepping closer to the screen. Look at the pattern on its hull. It's communicating. How could you possibly know that? Because I've seen it before. Lyra's mind raced through her research database. In sample KL-17. The cellular structure created similar patterns when exposed to certain frequencies. I think it's responding to our standard hailing signal. Reeves looked skeptical but didn't immediately dismiss her claim. Even if that's true, unknown biological entities approaching a station unannounced are considered hostile under Coalition protocol. The vessel continued its approach, now close enough that they could see intricate patterns flowing across its surface, ripples of bioluminescence in blues and greens. It's beautiful, Lyra whispered. And potentially deadly, Reeves countered, though he too seemed transfixed. His fingers hovered over the defense controls. I should fire a warning shot. Or we could try communicating back, Lyra suggested. If I can access my equipment. Absolutely not. Look at your scanner, she insisted. Is it giving any weapons readings? Any sign of hostile intent? Reluctantly, Reeves checked the readings. Nothing conclusive. Because it's not an attack ship. It's a messenger. Their debate was cut short as the station's sensors detected another anomaly, dozens of smaller entities detaching from the main vessel. They're launching something, Reeves said grimly, reaching for his weapon. The scanner showed the small object spreading out, then converging toward the station's external vents, access points designed to regulate atmospheric pressure. They're entering the ventilation system, Lyra realized with alarm. Reeves immediately activated his communicator. Coalition Command, this is Captain Reeves. Request immediate backup at coordinates 227-5489. Unknown biological entity attempting to breach. His transmission was interrupted by a sudden change in the station's atmosphere, subtle at first, then increasingly noticeable. The air took on a sweet, almost floral scent. Biocontaminant, Reeves said sharply, reaching for his emergency breather. But Lyra was already shaking her head, recognition dawning on her face. No, it's a pheromone compound. Similar to what I've been researching. She took a deep breath, analyzing the scent. Non-toxic, likely meant for communication. You can't know that for certain, Reeves argued, but hesitated before deploying his breather. As they stood in tense silence, the main laboratory door slid open. Instead of an alien intruder, however, a holographic projection materialized before them, a swirling, constantly shifting form composed of light and what appeared to be microscopic organisms suspended in the air. Reeves immediately positioned himself between Lyra and the projection, weapon raised. Identify yourself. The projection pulsed in response, changing colors rapidly before settling into a pattern that reminded Lyra of neural pathways. It's responding to your voice, she said quietly. The pitch, the resonance, it's trying to understand. The projection shifted again, this time forming what appeared to be crude representations of humanoid figures, then morphing to display what Lyra immediately recognized as molecular structures, complex compounds that matched her research samples. Captain, she said urgently, I need access to my equipment. Now. Out of the question. Look at those structures, she insisted. They're identical to the compounds I've been studying. This isn't random, they're showing us specific molecules with medical applications. They're trying to help. Reeves studied the projection, his enforcement training battling with his scientific background. If this is some kind of trick. It's not. Please, trust the scientist in you, not just the enforcement officer. After a moment's consideration, he made his decision. If I remove the inhibitors, any attempt to escape or activate emergency protocols will result in immediate force. Understood? Lyra nodded, relief washing over her. Understood. As soon as the inhibitors were deactivated, Lyra moved to her research terminal, fingers flying across the interface as she pulled up her database. The holographic entity pulsed with increased intensity, as if excited by her actions. I think they detected my research, she explained, calling up her findings. These compounds I've been studying, they're biological messengers from a species we've never encountered before. Not weapons or threats, but attempts at communication. Reeves watched as she matched the holographic projections patterns to her research samples. If that's true, why haven't they made contact through official channels? Maybe they tried. But would the coalition have listened? Or would they have immediately classified a biological entity as a threat to be contained or destroyed? The accusation hung between them, neither confirming nor denying its validity. What are they trying to communicate? Reeves finally asked, his focus returning to the current situation. Before Lyra could answer, the projection expanded, filling the laboratory with a three-dimensional map of nearby systems. Several planets were highlighted, each surrounded by the same molecular structures Lyra had been researching. They're showing us outbreaks, she realized, comparing the data to her findings. The same compounds I've been studying as potential medicines, they're appearing naturally on these worlds. That covers 3 recent medical emergencies, Reeves noted, his enforcement training allowing him to quickly recognize the pattern. Situations where local populations have been experiencing unexplained symptoms, not quite diseases, but not normal either. The holographic entity pulsed in what seemed like affirmation. Not attacks, Lyra said quietly. Communication attempts. And we've been treating them as invasions. As the implications sank in, Reeves' communicator signaled an incoming transmission. Coalition response team is 10 minutes out, he said, his expression conflicted. Lyra looked from the beautiful, complex hologram to the captain, suddenly aware of the crossroads they were facing. When they arrive, they'll quarantine everything. This entity, my research, any chance of understanding what's happening will be destroyed. I have orders, Reeves said, though his tone lacked conviction. You also have a scientific background, Lyra countered. You know there's something extraordinary happening here. Something that could change our understanding of xenobiology forever. The holographic entity pulsed again, this time projecting what appeared to be medical data, showing how the molecular compounds interacted with humanoid physiology, not harming but enhancing, strengthening, healing. Reeves stared at the projection, his duty as an enforcement officer warring with his scientific curiosity. Then, making a decision that would change both their lives, he reached for his communicator again. Coalition Command, this is Captain Reeves. Situation under control, false alarm on biological threat. Request immediate scientific team instead. Priority code, Xenobiological Discovery Protocol. He paused, glancing at Lyra. And temporary suspension of arrest warrant pending new evidence. As he ended the transmission, Lyra looked at him with newfound respect. That could end your career. Maybe, he acknowledged. Or maybe we're about to make the most important discovery in 30 years. He gestured to the holographic entity still displaying its message of healing. I think we have work to do, Doctor. Together, they turned toward the entity, the enforcement officer and the rule breaker, unlikely allies at the threshold of a new understanding between species. Beyond the veil. The scientific team arrived with the expected flurry of hazmat suits and containment equipment, their expressions shifting from alarm to awe as they encountered the holographic entity. Lyra and Captain Reeves had spent the interim hour establishing rudimentary communication protocols, discovering that the entity, which they temporarily designated as the messenger, responded to specific harmonic frequencies. It's not just communicating, Lyra explained to the bewildered team leader, Dr. Vargas. It's trying to teach us. About what, exactly? Dr. Vargas asked, eyeing the shifting hologram with practiced skepticism. A biological symbiosis we've completely misunderstood, Reeves answered before Lyra could, surprising her with his conviction. Those outbreaks on the frontier worlds weren't attacks, they were attempted first contact. Lyra nodded, pulling up her research alongside the messenger's projections. The molecular compounds I've been studying aren't weapons or pathogens. They're messengers themselves, biological interfaces designed to enhance communication between species. That's a convenient interpretation, given your legal situation, Dr. Vargas noted dryly. I vouched for her findings, Reeves interjected, his official tone leaving no room for argument. And I've authorized provisional research status under my authority as senior enforcement officer. Lyra shot him a grateful look, still adjusting to the idea of having the captain as an ally rather than an adversary. As the science team established their equipment, the messenger pulsed with renewed intensity, projecting what appeared to be a timeline. The images showed the approach of multiple biological vessels similar to the one outside, converging on coalition space. More are coming, Lyra translated, studying the patterns. I think this is just an advanced communication party. How many more? Reeves asked, his enforcement training immediately assessing potential threats. The projection expanded, displaying dozens, no, hundreds, of vessels approaching from what appeared to be the outer rim of the galaxy. Coalition Command needs to see this, Dr. Vargas declared, already reaching for her communicator. Wait, Lyra interrupted. Before we trigger a potential military response, we need to understand what they want. They've gone to extraordinary lengths to communicate with us. The messenger pulsed in agreement, shifting its projection to display a striking image, humanoid DNA strands intertwining with alien molecular structures, creating something new, something enhanced. Symbiosis, Lyra breathed, understanding dawning. They're offering a biological partnership. Or suggesting invasion at the cellular level, Dr. Vargas countered. Reeves studied the projection, his scientific training allowing him to see beyond immediate threat assessment. Look at the cellular stability, the enhanced functions. If this is accurate, it's not invasive, it's therapeutic. Exactly what my research indicated, Lyra said, pulling up her findings. The samples I've been studying show regenerative properties beyond anything we've achieved. They don't replace native cells, they enhance them, strengthen them against disease and aging. Dr. Vargas seemed unconvinced. Even if that's true, the coalition won't simply allow an unknown species to alter our biology. The risk is too great. The risk of not understanding them is greater, Reeves argued. If these entities wanted to harm us, they could have released their biological compounds without warning. Instead, they've been trying to communicate their intentions. A junior scientist interrupted their debate. Captain, incoming transmission from Coalition Command. Admiral Wexler is demanding an update. Reeves exchanged a glance with Lyra. Admiral Wexler was known for his hardline approach to alien encounters: shoot first, study the remains later. Put him through to my private channel, Reeves instructed. Before stepping away, he leaned close to Lyra. Keep working. Find something concrete I can use to convince them this isn't a threat. As Reeves handled the Admiral, Lyra turned her full attention to the messenger. We need more, she said directly to the entity. Show us evidence of successful symbiosis. Show us this has worked before. The hologram shifted, displaying a series of worlds, some recognizable from coalition star charts, others completely unknown. On each world, the projection showed species that had integrated with the biological messengers, their civilizations thriving, their biological functions enhanced. These are the ones who accepted, Lyra realized. The species who embraced symbiosis. Dr. Vargas pointed to an empty region on the star chart. And these? The blank areas? The messenger's projection darkened momentarily before showing civilizations in decline, species that had rejected the symbiosis offering, their worlds eventually succumbing to natural diseases, environmental collapse, or self-destruction. Not threats, Lyra explained. Just missed opportunities. Across the lab, they could hear Reeves' voice rising as he argued with the Admiral. Respectfully request scientific assessment before any military response, potential first contact situation, unprecedented opportunity. The conversation was clearly not going well. Dr. Vargas sighed. Admiral Wexler has already dispatched the 7th Fleet. Standard protocol for unknown biological entities approaching coalition space. Lyra's heart sank. They'll destroy the vessels before we can establish proper communication. Not if we can prove symbiosis is beneficial, one of the younger scientists suggested. We need a demonstration, irrefutable evidence. All eyes turned to Lyra, the implication clear. You want me to undergo the symbiosis process, she stated. Not a question. You're already facing severe charges, Dr. Vargas pointed out. And you have the most knowledge of these compounds. Before Lyra could respond, Reeves returned, his expression grim. The fleet will be here in 6 hours with orders to neutralize all biological vessels. Wexler's labeled this a Class 1 threat. We need to show them they're wrong, Lyra said. I'll volunteer for symbiosis. Absolutely not, Reeves countered immediately. The risk is calculated, she interrupted. I've been studying these compounds for years. If anyone can safely undergo the process, it's me. Their eyes locked in a silent battle of wills, concern facing determination. There has to be another way, Reeves insisted. The messenger pulsed, projecting new information, detailed biological protocols, safety parameters, reversibility procedures. Look, Lyra pointed. They're showing us it can be controlled, even reversed if necessary. Dr. Vargas and her team studied the protocols with growing excitement. These safeguards are remarkably sophisticated. They've clearly done this many times before. Reeves remained unconvinced. And if something goes wrong? If the Admiral arrives to find you transformed into something not human? Then you'll have your evidence that the threat is real, Lyra said simply. But I don't believe that will happen. After hours of heated debate and thorough preparation, Lyra sat at the center of the laboratory, surrounded by monitoring equipment. The science team had established every possible safety protocol, while Reeves had reluctantly agreed to oversee the procedure, though he insisted on having a neutralizing agent ready. The messenger hovered nearby, its holographic form pulsing with gentle reassurance. "Ready?" Dr. Vargas asked, final checks complete. Lyra nodded, meeting Reeves' concerned gaze. "For science, Captain." "For more than that," he replied quietly. At Lyra's signal, the team activated the carefully prepared chamber. The air around her filled with microscopic particles, the biological messengers in their purest form, guided by the entity's projection. They spiraled around her, a galaxy of living light, before gently settling on her skin. The sensation began as a tingling, then a warmth that spread throughout her body. Monitoring equipment beeped with increasing frequency as her vital signs fluctuated. Heart rate elevated, a technician reported. Brain activity spiking across all regions. Reeves stepped closer, hand hovering over the emergency shutdown. "Lyra? I'm okay," she managed, though her voice sounded strange to her own ears. "It's remarkable." The particles had been absorbed into her skin, leaving a faint iridescent sheen that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. But the visible changes were nothing compared to what she was experiencing internally. "I can feel them," she whispered in awe. "Not invading or controlling, integrating. Enhancing." She looked up at Reeves, her eyes now containing subtle flecks of bioluminescence. "It's like having a second nervous system that works in perfect harmony with my own." Dr. Vargas rushed forward with scanning equipment. Cellular regeneration rates increased by 300%. Neural pathway efficiency improved by 240%. "This is unprecedented. How do you feel?" Reeves asked, professional concern mingling with personal worry. Lyra stood, moving with new grace. "I feel complete. As if I've been operating at half capacity my entire life." She turned to the messenger. "Thank you." The holographic entity pulsed with what could only be described as pleasure. "The fleet will be here in less than 2 hours, a technician reminded them. "Then we need to prepare our demonstration," Lyra said with newfound confidence. "And I need to speak directly with Admiral Wexler." When the Admiral's holographic form materialized in the laboratory an hour later, his expression of military authority quickly gave way to scientific curiosity as Lyra demonstrated her enhanced abilities, accelerated healing, heightened cognition, even limited interaction with technology through bioelectric fields. "The symbiosis doesn't replace humanity," she explained, standing tall before the Admiral's projection. "It elevates it. These beings have traveled across galaxies not to conquer but to connect, to share biological knowledge that could transform medicine, extend lifespans, even repair environmental damage." "An impressive speech, Dr. Novak," Admiral Wexler responded, still skeptical. "But one successful integration doesn't guarantee the safety of an entire civilization." "No," she agreed. "But it proves this isn't an invasion. It's an invitation, one that requires consent and understanding on both sides." Reeves stepped forward. "Admiral, as both an enforcement officer and a scientist, I recommend designating this a first contact situation under Protocol 7A rather than a threat response. The potential benefits far outweigh the risks." The Admiral's projection flickered as he considered their arguments. "And you believe these benefits should be available to all Coalition citizens? Despite the risks?" "With proper protocols and oversight," Lyra confirmed. "The same oversight the Coalition claims to value in all scientific endeavors." Something shifted in Wexler's expression, grudging respect, perhaps, or at least pragmatic recognition of the situation's potential. "I'll divert the fleet to establish a quarantine perimeter rather than an attack formation," he finally conceded. "But this symbiosis process will remain strictly voluntary and subject to rigorous scientific and ethical review." After the transmission ended, the laboratory erupted in relieved celebration. Dr. Vargas and her team immediately began drafting research protocols, while the messenger projected images of successful integration across thousands of species. In a quiet corner, Reeves approached Lyra, studying her subtly transformed appearance. "How does it feel, being the bridge between two species?" "Strange," she admitted. "But right, somehow. As if this was always where I was headed." She looked up at him, curiosity in her now luminescent eyes. "What happens now, Captain? Do you still need to arrest me?" A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "I think the circumstances have changed significantly, Doctor. Your illegal research has become the foundation for officially sanctioned first contact." "Funny how things work out," she said, returning his smile. "Indeed." He hesitated, then continued. "The Admiral has requested I oversee the new symbiosis research division. Apparently, we need someone with both scientific understanding and enforcement experience." "A perfect choice," Lyra agreed. "I'll need a chief researcher," he added, his eyes not leaving hers. "Someone with first-hand experience of the symbiosis process. Someone willing to push boundaries while respecting necessary protocols." Lyra laughed, the sound carrying new harmonics that seemed to dance in the air between them. "Are you offering me a job, Captain Reeves?" "I'm offering you a partnership, Dr. Novak," he corrected, extending his hand. "Scientific, professional, and—" He paused, something warm in his gaze, whatever else it might become. As their hands met, the messenger pulsed brightly, projecting a cascade of light that enveloped them both, not initiating symbiosis, but celebrating connection in all its forms. "I accept," Lyra said, feeling the universe opening before them in ways neither human nor alien had imagined alone. "Partner." Outside the station viewport, the first of many biological vessels approached, no longer a threat but a promise, a bridge between worlds that had always been separated by fear rather than distance. And at that bridge stood Lyra and Reeves, once adversaries, now united in purpose, guides to a future beyond the veil of misunderstanding, where difference became strength and connection transcended species. The real journey, they both knew, was just beginning.